There we go, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I do have a very special guest today. I'm excited to bring him in, but first, as a reminder, I'm Rob Tatro from robtatro.com, portfolio manager here at Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management and at the Tatro Wealth Advisory Group. Really excited with our guest. I'm going to bring him in right away here. None other than, I call him KV, but Kevin Vandermeer. He's a CFA. He's a fellow of the Canadian Securities Institute. He's also Managing Director, Investments and Advisory Solutions at Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Thank you for having me, Rob.
We're going to talk today about some points to consider. We're looking at some of the stuff that you've sent out to advisors in the past, specifically guys like me. So you're at Canaccord Genuity, Managing Director. I just want to get this title right here. Managing Director, Investments and Advisory Solutions. So you work obviously on research. You're a CFA, so you're a Chartered Financial Analyst, the highest designation you can get in our industry. And you also work directly with guys like me to help with our practice, research, finding valuable information. You guys that have been watching the show, you've met Javed a few times, Javed Mirza, Martin Roberge. We're actually bringing on the show Scott Chan next week and some other analysts as well. So these are like my teammates at Canaccord. For those of you that are watching, we work together to build on portfolio strategy. And we thought it'd be really neat to take you through some of the points to consider, some of the stuff you've sent out in the past while. And if you're watching on YouTube, please take a sec to subscribe. So this is my first chart here that we're going to show, your first chart. Hopefully that's legible. I'll let you chat about it.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think we all know that the market really, kind of declined quickly and fastly into a March low, as a result of the pandemic, as a result of the shutdown globally. And then what's happened is we've come, as fast as we came down, we've come back out of that decline. And much faster than really any of us have really ever seen or would have anticipated. So really what this chart shows is we've laid out, I think there's something like 8 or 9 bear markets here going back
1982, 1984, 1996, 87, 98, 2002, 2009, 2020.
Yeah. And so every time it feels different, it feels unusual, it feels painful. And what we did was we went back in our research and said, okay, what does this look like relative to, say, 09 and back in history? And it turns out this is like the second biggest jump off the bottom ever, or going back to at least 83. So you can see some of the others, but certainly, the bounce has been really, really strong. I mean, really,
it's
that's
almost,
what we're
this is a great way to see it kind of in one chart. And if you had the opposite chart, which I think you did have, and if we've showed it, you and I before, but the drop was also the most precipitous drop that we've seen kind of ever, right?
That's right. You'd have to go back to 87 to see the kind of speed that we saw. And then, to kind of put it in context, normally, if you think back to kind of most of us that would have been around for the kind of 2008 scenario, but, normally the top of a market, the market tops are made gradually, and a market will kind of decline over a period of time. And usually that time could be kind of 150 days. So think of about a 6-month period of time where the market's laboring, and then eventually it capitulates. And you can go back and look at 07, the market kind of peaked in the summer, but it wasn't really until the fall of 07 that it really collapsed. But this time we saw what normally the market would do in 150 days, really did it in like 22 days to kind of frame it. And then, not surprising, we've come off the bottom really, really hard and quickly. So that's really kind of what we're trying to show here.
Yeah, the 65 trading days, those of you that can't read the chart there, it's 38.6%, and the SP 500 is 41%. The strongest move off a bear since 1971. But 87, if we're comparing 87, as I've heard the stories, the war stories from all of my older colleagues, that really was a one-day, dish ragging, as they would call it, right? A one-day dish ragging, which was, I think it was like 22% in a day or something, 23% in a day, and then kind of a few other percentage points.
Yeah, and actually, as a result of that, for those who are real students of the market, what happened was, as a result of that move in one day, the markets around the world now have what are called curves. So, and we saw that actually during this pullback, where the market will pause. So once it goes through a couple of circuit breakers, then you get almost like a timeout, and so the market will pause for 30 minutes and then reopen again. So some of the pain of years gone by and the pain of others has now been implemented in market structure now, and sort of slowing down the speed at which markets can fall. So we really will probably never have hopefully another 22% or 28% drop in one day, but we certainly had some 10s and 12s through this last period.
Yeah, like at 30,000 points on the Dow, that'd be like 7,000, almost 7,000 points in one day. So we felt 2,000 points that one day. With the Friday the 18th, I think it was 2,000 points. Yeah. And that was a lot. Imagine 7,000 points. So if you're bored and you're watching the show and you want to learn more about circuit breakers, we did cover it as a topic in one of my shows. I believe it was either my first show or my second show, because that day that I was on here live, we tripped up 2 circuit breakers on the S&P 500. So go back into time and check the video, I believe from March 23rd, or it might be the week right around March 23rd. I know we covered it in our chat. So if you're bored and you want to learn about circuit breakers, go back and check that out. I think one more comment you can make about this that I would make, and you'd probably agree, is that I think due to just the speed of the networks and the cell phones, the accessibility of information and everything that we have now, I don't think we would expect market cycles to be slower than they have been. Would you say?
Yeah.
Like, given that everyone's got a cell phone at their fingertips now.
And not to date myself too much, but when I entered the industry, we used to get all of I worked for a portfolio manager, and I would literally sit by the fax machine, and that data would come off of a fax, and I would read him the headlines and the earnings, and we would be saying like, oh, the company came in line with expectations, or there was ahead of expectations. And you'll remember back then, you had these things called whisper numbers. So there was, everybody had kind of different information. There wasn't the complete disclosure of information that we have today. So some analysts had better information about the company than others. All of that has been changed, and is, now all analysts get the same guidance, the same structure. But so now the speed at which information moves, think about how well we are all informed about what's going on around this pandemic. We are, if a company warns, or there's a fire in a city, or there's a challenge with a business, within minutes or hours, we are all well informed. And you can imagine the speed at which that information now is getting built into markets. Everything's moving, kind of 3 or 4 times faster than it was, 10, 15 years ago. It's pretty amazing.
It would just take longer for the cycle to go through, because you're a plumber, or you're a business owner, and you go out there and you see on the 6 o'clock news that the market fell. Well, it takes you a while to then call your advisor, and maybe you're selling the next day, maybe you're not. And, it would take days over days over days over days for that compounding negative sentiment to take place, whereby now you're all seeing it on your phone. It's negative. It's negative right now. So let's sell now, right? You just get that acceleration factor.